Hi, friends. Thank you for watching another edition of The Final Approach with Chris Gregory. I want to introduce you to Tyler Sherrick. Tyler Sherrick is a cowboy, he's a steer tripper, he has worked in family business, he's a commercial pilot, heading back to the airlines. This is going to be a real fun episode, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. Thank you all for watching. We're cleared for takeoff. Audio. All right. Well, Tyler, thank you so much. This has been a while coming. Can you say your last name for me?
Sherrick?
Sherrick. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
I have had a hard time pronouncing some of my guests' names.
Yeah.
So anyway, this will be really calm. It'll be as casual as you want it to be. It'll go as deep as you want it to be. We can talk about anything you want to talk about. And we're all said and done. If you're like, oh man, not that, then just tell me. These are directional. So if you like this, you won't come in, or you'll go in and out if you do that.
Okay. All right.
All right. So Tyler, you are a commercial pilot and a steer roper.
Yes, sir. Actually, I'm ATP multi-engine rated and then commercial pilot single. I guess that's kind of probably technical, but
Well, no,
What that would be.
that's fantastic.
Yep.
So how did you become a pilot?
so it started really young. It's something I always wanted to do as far back as I can remember. Actually, I even walked across the preschool stage. And whenever, they say, what are you going to be when you grow up? I said pilot.
So at 4 years old, that was your
Yeah.
goal, huh?
Yep, that was kind of the dream and the goal from a very young age. It's kind of weird. I know a lot of people aren't that way, but I grew up and my whole going all through school was geared towards being a pilot,
And
essentially.
is any of your family pilots?
My grandpa, so that's where it came from, is my grandpa and my uncle. My grandpa, he had a plane and a little grass strip at his house. He was actually part of a coyote hunting club. He flew plane and spotted coyotes and radioed for the greyhounds on the ground.
Oh, how cool. Did you go with him on those trips?
No, I remember going up with him as a young kid.
Do you know what he flew?
Piper Cub.
Piper Cub.
Yep.
All right. You still have it?
No,
Oh,
no,
too
got
bad,
some
huh?
pictures, got some old pictures, pretty cool pictures. Coyote painted on the side of the plane, but no, we don't have the plane anymore.
All right. And what was your plane you learned in?
I learned in a 172.
All right. So did you go to flight school and learn this through college?
I did. So my uncle, he's a captain now with American Airlines, and he actually taught me to fly. I flew with him at a young age. I went with him on several trips because he kind of started as a private pilot, flying other people. He managed some airplanes for some corporate guys. And and he would let me tag along as a young kid, so I'd tag along with him on some trips. And then I think when I was 13 or 14, probably is when I actually kind of started getting hooked up, and we started logging some training time. And
So did you have your PPL when you went to college then?
I did, yes.
Did you get it at 17?
Shortly after, I soloed and got my student pilot's license actually before I even got a driver's license.
Right.
And,
Yeah. How cool is that, huh?
So I did that. And then shortly after that, I think it was either right around high school graduation or maybe a little after is when I got my private pilot's license. And then I went to NEO for a couple of years.
Did they have aviation there?
No, I went there, I rodeoed, so I got part of my school paid for rodeoing. And then
And what events did you do in college?
I just roped calves, team roped very lightly. Roping calves was my main
All right.
event. But
And how did you get into steer tripping then?
my dad, he tripped steers, and I kind of was following in his footsteps there. So
I guess so. There's a lot of my friends that watch this don't really know what tripping is. So you want to describe a trip and run?
So tripping, it's a lot of people know it as a single steer roping event. Steer roping and team roping, they kind of get mixed up a lot of times because when you say you roping steers, everybody kind of immediately assumes you're team roping. Steer roping is one guy. He comes out of the heeling box. rope the horns. There's only one legal head catch in steer open. It's slicker on the horns. Whereas team roping, you have 3 legal head catches. So slicker on the horns. Rope has to be below the steer's right hip, and to be considered a legal trip, horse goes left. Trips.
Does it have to be above the hock as well?
No, not anymore.
Okay.
Main thing is just below the right hip.
Okay.
I think that was an old rule, or maybe some associations may be required above
Well,
the
in,
hock.
in
But
New Mexico, when I was younger, we played around with it. I always thought that was the rule. It had to be below the hip, above the hock.
no, yeah, not anymore. Nope, just below the right hip. There's one illegal. They call it the hamburger hold, and that's where the trip goes under the steer's neck, and the slack goes under the steer's neck, and then back around, and they call that a hamburger hold for. I mean, you can imagine why
Yes.
they call it hamburger hold. That's an illegal trip. Other than that, the only other rule is it's got to be below the right hip now.
Okay. All right.
So-
I'm sorry to interrupt. So
You're good.
you ride left.
Ride left, trip the steer, get off, go tie 3 legs together. Got to have a wrap, at least one wrap around all 3 legs, just like the calf roping at that point.
And what is a good time in the steer tripping?
Anymore, depending on the setup, there's been some guys be 8 seconds, 9 seconds anymore,
That's
some real
crazy
fast
fast,
setups,
huh?
but 10 to 12 to 14, somewhere in that range is kind of an average.
Did you ever do any bulldogging?
No, I did not.
No, you're built for it.
No, that's what everybody says. No, I've never tried. The thought of it is intriguing to me, but I feel like taking that first jump off would be a little nerve-wracking. But
Oh, you know what? You need the hazer like I had. If you didn't jump, he'd pull you off.
yeah,
So-
yeah. I would need somebody to go ahead and push me off the ledge.
Yeah, they
for
always just
sure.
say is Willie jump or not?
Yeah, that's right.
We diverted from flying really quick,
Yep.
but we'll go back to that real quick. So NEO, couple years, college rodeo,
Mhm.
and then where?
So the whole time, my whole schooling at NEO, I was 100% geared towards flying still. And I was looking at Oklahoma State University, and I looked at Oklahoma State University, and my, what do they call them, counselors or whoever
Yep.
enrolls you in the classes. They knew that as well. So they made sure that I was in all of the gen eds courses that would carry over to Oklahoma State. So I did that, and oddly enough, it came out as a associate's degree in fine arts. So
Nice.
I have a fine arts
At least it
degree.
wasn't women's studies.
Yeah, I got a fine arts degree from NEO, and that allowed me to go to Oklahoma State, and I had to take no gen ed.
So
at
you got to
Oklahoma
just do
State.
aviation.
I just did aviation at Oklahoma State from the minute I got there.
So if you're a young man or a young person and you want to be a pilot like that, did you find that going to Oklahoma State and already having your PPO was a big advantage or a disadvantage?
Very big advantage, yeah. Because PPL, your private pilot's license, it is, and in my opinion, it was probably the hardest to get, and that's just me. Some people say the instrument rating
That's what I think.
is the hardest, but for me, and it might have been just because I was young, maybe, and
Sure.
immature when I got it, but to me, once the fundamentals were down with the private pilot's license, once the fundamentals of flying was grasped, the rest of my ratings, honestly, I won't say easy, but they just felt a whole lot more natural from that point forward.
Did you get your instruments before going to Oklahoma State?
No, I got it there.
And did you get CFI and CFAA?
I did not. That's the only ratings that I didn't get.
Why
So
not?
I was studying for them and studying real hard, actually. And I actually took both. There's 2 written tests for your CFI. And I actually took both writtens and was on the path to be CFI, double IMEI, all that. And I graduated through Oklahoma State's program and was kind of continuing on that route. And a guy, so we ranch, so an order buyer of ours that he's treated me as his own son forever. He lives in Alabama and was coming to the sales in Joplin, he was looking at buying a plane to get him from point A to point, from Alabama to Joplin. And there's a insurance company based out here too, and that we become friends with. And they went in together and bought an airplane,
They had like a Cessna 421,
a 414.
414.
Yeah, that was, and they, for whatever reason, decided I was the one to manage and fly it. So I took that opportunity and dropped my aspirations to be a flight instructor from that point forward, which was
Okay.
great. I don't regret it at all. At times, I kind of wish, it'd be nice maybe to go ahead and get that CFI finished, maybe. But in another sense, I never had to deal with sitting in the right seat with students trying to kill you. So
There is that.
yeah.
I learned to fly from he was a guy named Tom Richards, and he was 82 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just calm as
Yeah.
could be. I think I could have put that Piper into a spin.
Yeah.
And been, 50 feet from the ground. He said, yeah, just a little bit of right rudder.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
He was, thinking back on it, I never really get nervous, and I didn't get nervous, but it really helped that he never got nervous.
Yeah. 100%.
If your flight instructor gets nervous,
Yeah.
a panic.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Did they keep you pretty busy?
Very busy. Extremely busy. Too busy at times, honestly. And I loved it to death. I loved the experience at all. But I kind of knew as I got into it, because starting that whole process, and then I got married, started a family, and I kind of had some of my own stuff going on. And I was the only guy. I was their only pilot, and I was on call. They owned the plane, and in a sense, they owned me too. And it got to a point where it was conflicting at times. Some schedules conflicting with
Of course, yeah.
some family stuff, and I hated telling them no. And
Or telling your wife no. You had
exactly.
Yeah, that's a tough
and
spot,
they
huh?
probably hated me to say no worse than I
Yeah,
worse
of
than I
course.
hated to say no, and I felt that at times. And so I did that for 2 years, 3 years. I kept with them for 2 or 3 years, and the partnership split. So the order buyer in Alabama, which for good reason, he stepped up and bought a jet and basing it in Alabama, which he absolutely did not need to give me the opportunity to do that. Essentially, he was paying double, because we based the plane here, and he allowed me to fly down there, pick him up, and fly back. So we was putting double the amount of time on the plane just
Wow.
for him, and
Was
he
it a
was
citation?
paying for that 414. So
440.
he bought a citation.
No, yeah. So
in
that's the
2018.
jet he bought.
That was the
citation.
jet he bought in 2018. So he stepped
And
out of the partnership.
You're rated on a citation as well. Huh?
No, I didn't fly. He gave me
Oh.
that opportunity, but it was going to be a deal where I was probably going to have to move down there, and I'd say I entertained it a little, but
Sure.
I mean, but I had too many ties up here, and so he got his own crew to manage the citation down there. As far as I know, I think it's the same crew.
Have you flown one of those or been in one?
I've flown with him one time or maybe twice. Just
That's a machine, huh?
it's rather fun. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
They're a little hard to get in.
Yeah, they're tight.
I was surprised. You just see it sitting on the ramp, and you
Uh-huh.
say, "Oh well, got to be lots of room." But by the time you get up
Yeah.
there,
He had a 2. I think he bought a citation 2 first, and that's the one that I flew on, and it was real tight. The 414 actually probably had a little more room in it than the citation 2. But and I think since then he's got a citation 5 now, and I haven't been in the 5. It's probably bigger than the
Okay.
2, but
what's your favorite plane?
that's a loaded question.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So if money wasn't a thing, and you just going to buy a plane,
If I was going to
yourself?
buy a plane, I'd go Citation X or Citation 10, whatever they call them. For whatever reason, that's been my favorite jet. It was claimed famous. It's the fastest, private jet in the world. I don't know if
and
it
it's
still
still
is.
single pilot.
No, it's dual.
Okay, I thought
Yeah,
it
you
was.
got to have dual.
So you teach Sierra to.
Gulfstream may have a beat now. I don't know. I kind of, as I grew older, I've kind of fell out of the statistics a little bit, but I do know Citation X or Citation 10 held that for a long period of time, and I just thought they were the coolest
I think I'd get a Kodiak.
looking plane. Yeah,
You know that
that's a
would,
different class. When you
Yeah,
start
but-
talking about,
Well, I'm just
single
saying
engine
favorite
stuff,
plane.
yeah.
You know, family
Overall,
and
yeah. If money was not an option,
right.
I'd have a Citation 10.
And so those probably start at what 3.5 or something.
Yeah, I don't know, probably a lot. Yeah, if if I had money was no option, that'd be what I'd go for. But I mean, for a middle, I guess blue collar working man, that's got a little bit of spending money. That 414 or even a 421, they're great family planes.
Yeah, they're dual engines.
Dual engines, and I mean you can load them pretty heavy.
Yeah, what is the payload on a
I
414?
And I can't remember right off the top of my head. I'm wanting to say 7 or gross weight 7,000. You could probably get. I know you can fill it full 8 people with a little bit of bags and probably half tanks of fuel, and you'll still be all right. Yeah.
Well, you can't fill the tanks on the Citation and all the seats.
No, you wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah. So we just traded up for a 206.
Yeah.
And I had the Piper Lance,
Uh-huh.
and I had the T-tail. It was a cool plane. It was the very last straight tail Lance they made in '78.
Yeah.
And the first T-tail. So
Yeah.
it was Piper's test plane.
Right.
And the tail number was 1701 Echo, and so we called it the Enterprise because the first guy that had it worked for Star Trek.
Oh, we did.
And he got that vanity tail number, so
Yeah.
it'd be like the USS Enterprise.
Right.
But if you filled that thing up, I mean, you were wanting a lot of runway anyway.
Right.
But now with this 206, I mean, I'm taking off at 750 feet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
It's a workhorse.
unbelievable.
So I owned my grandpa and my uncle. So we went from a 172, and they owned that 172. And that's what I got my pilot's license in, and then sold it. And then when I was in flight school at Oklahoma State, we had the opportunity to buy a 210, and I bought a
no kidding.
turbocharged 210.
Okay, so it's the same thing as
Yeah.
206 except for it's retractable.
Yeah, it's retractable, and this one was Is yours turbocharged? Yep. Yeah. So this one was turbocharged as well.
What year was it?
It was great. It was a 79.
79.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a November model, I believe. And that thing was awesome. And that's actually what, so I made a few trips to Alabama in it. I picked him up. And then that's kind of what got that guy into wanting
Wasn't an airplane
of his own,
Yeah, I really wanted a 210. In fact, I set out to get a 210.
Uh-huh.
And then I started looking at insurance.
Yeah.
And because the retractable
gear
is so is not sturdy.
Yep.
And then if you lose your alternator, you really can't get it down.
Yep.
And so some of them have ram air alternators under the wing.
Yep.
Just so that they can, get the landing gear.
Yeah, and they say, which mine had it was built after my understanding is the 210s prior, they took the doors off, the landing gear doors off. I guess when they first made them, they built them with the doors, and I guess the doors is the main problem.
Okay.
So I think in 78, 79 in there, they started building them from the factory without those doors, and it was a big help. I don't think they had too many problems after that.
Yeah.
But the doors hanging up was the big thing. And the 182s was the same problem. 182 retracts had the same problem.
You hardly ever see those.
At Oklahoma State, which I don't know if I should tell this or not, but I never ran into it, so it never was me, but I'd heard several stories that it was like a 9-iron golf club was standard equipment on the 182 RG, because when the doors hung up, you could open the door and reach back with that 9-iron and yank that door open and go sew your landing gear out. I don't think they have the 182 RG anymore.
Well, you wouldn't want to be on a short final when that happened.
No, yeah, no, for sure. or have passengers probably.
Well, if you had a passenger, you could get them to do it for you.
Yeah, that's right.
Have you flown a 182 much?
A little bit. So I had a job when I was out there after I got commercial pilot. There's a little operation there at Cushing, Oklahoma, with some oil tanks, and they flew surveillance or something. I don't really even know what they were doing, but I know there was a camera on the plane, and I'd go up about once a week and fly about an hour, hour and a half route over these oil tanks. 'Cause in Cushing, there's huge oil tank fields, and we'd fly back and forth over them oil tanks, and that was a little bit of a time builder that they give some of the guys at Oklahoma State.
Well, that's
So,
cool.
yeah,
Did you do it just for the time, or did they actually pay you?
they paid a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, probably enough to get my gas from Stillwater to Cushing and maybe buy a cheeseburger or something, but
So
it
you
was
weren't gonna get
mainly
rich on it.
no, it was just mainly a time builder. So
Yeah. Yeah, I know there's a lot of the students that are trying to build time. They fly pipeline. Did you ever do that one?
I never did. There was a few guys that did do the actual pipeline and would go on some long cross countries with it, but I never did do that. I just did the surveillance deal around Cushing a little bit.
So when you got your commercial at Oklahoma State, do you remember the maneuvers like the Chandels and
Oh,
the
yeah.
Lazy Eights?
Lazy, yeah.
What did you find the hardest? A horse in motion, a horse's stride. Beautiful, powerful, unstoppable. But a bad trim, a bad shoe, a bad nail, that can stop it dead in its tracks. That's why I wrote Gregory's Textbook of Farriery. This is the book used by the top schools around the country. It is the go-to for horseshoers and veterinarians around the world. And it is something that will help you help horses. I even had it translated into Spanish, disponible en español, so that I could help more horses in more places. It is also available on audiobook, so you can get the audio from heartlandhorseshoeing.com. You can get the textbook from Amazon. You can get it from virtually any farrier supply or the good schools that use it. So if you have any interest in helping horses, if you're a horseman, if you're a vet student, if you're a farrier student, if you're already a vet or a farrier, and you just want to know more about this beautiful creature we call a horse and how you can help it, get your copy today. Thank you all very much.
I don't really remember. Honestly, the hardest was probably Power Off 180.
Power off landing?
Yeah, Power Off 180 landing. And because they say you get one shot at, I think, if I remember right, you got one shot at it.
Yeah, and if you're short, it's a no-go.
Shortest, yeah.
You get 200 feet of
something, yeah.
leeway.
Yeah, so that was probably the toughest. And and out there, I remember that was the maneuver that failed most of the students in that deal, and then they'd have to do a retake.
Do you remember your formula for getting past it?
No, I don't. That's too long ago. But
So
no,
you haven't practiced since, huh?
I have not. No, and it's been a few years since I've been in the air, but I'm eager to get back. So
Well, when I got the Lance, so I did 492 hours in the Lance.
Uh-huh.
So that's how many hours I ended up flying it. But whenever I first got it, I had to have 15 hours of flight instruction
Uh-huh.
for insurance.
Yep.
And so we were trying the Power Off 180, and I couldn't. I don't know, when you shut the power off on that Lance, all of a sudden it was a cinder block.
yeah,
And so I tried it like 3 or 4 times, and the guy that was with me, the instructor, he said, "Well, if I can't do it, it can't be done." And he tried 3 times, and every time we didn't even make the runway without adding power.
I'll be dang.
I mean, that thing was a brick.
Yeah,
But I'm going for my commercial here soon.
yeah,
So I've been practicing that in the 206.
yeah,
And so far I'm about 25% of the time
yeah.
successful.
That's
Which, for an old guy who hadn't flown much, it's
right.
fine.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I was hoping you'd give me a formula.
I wish I'm sure there might have been, but I can't remember it right off the top of my head.
How about Lazy Eights? Were those hard for you?
Not that they didn't really give me too much trouble. And Chandel's probably the easiest one, I would say. But Lazy Eights, no, don't get in a hurry. It's probably, it's a lazy maneuver. And I remember that my flight instructor kind of nailed that into my head because it's the name. The whole point of the maneuver is right there in the name. It's Lazy Eights, it's a lazy turn, and
Yep.
and so, because that's what I think most people do. They try to they try to rush that turn
Yep.
and then they roll out too soon. But
I tend to overcorrect.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what I just kind of had to nail into my head was, take it
Did
slow.
you get past it all your first try?
Yeah, I did. I was very fortunate. I'd never had to retake anything on any of my
Oh,
licenses.
that's very cool.
Knock on wood thus far. So
All right. So now you've been cowboying for how long now? 5 years?
well, to be honest, I've been cowboying ever since I was little as well.
Your whole life.
Yeah.
But I mean, you haven't been flying for a living this last
No,
half a
for about
decade.
4 or 5 years now. Which my family, I grew up ranching, and that's what we've grown up doing. So, I've always kind of had a little bit of a safety to come back to when circumstances don't allow me elsewise. So, yeah, for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been cowboying. We bought a grow yard there in Northeast Oklahoma, and I've been managing it since 2022. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And how is that with the price of cattle right now? Is that a good business or a tough business?
It's tough for the yearling guys, which is what we are. It's great for the cow-calf, man. I mean, having babies and selling $2,000 calves, you can't go wrong
This
there.
is incredible, isn't it?
And I say it's tough. The toughest part for us has been, man, these prices get so high, and then a man wants to put risk protection on in a hedging sense, or buying a put or selling a call. We can go. That's a whole nother can of worms. But man, those margin calls can eat a feller up with that market climbing, and you about can't afford not to do it. And in the same
Right.
sense,
You lose some. You're really
yeah,
trouble.
in the same sense, if you haven't done any risk protection at all in the last 2 or 3 years, you look like a genius, because there is absolutely nothing you could do to not. I mean, unless you just kill all of your cattle off, 100% of them. That's about the only way you're going to lose money, because if you buy whatever class of cattle it is, they were going to make money in the last 2 or 3 years. So
How far do you think it's going to go? Will this keep going? It can't, can it?
if I knew, I would be sitting on a beach somewhere far away from here.
I
But
guess that's true. But you're in this business. What's your
Yeah.
prediction?
it's I've been saying for the last 2 years it can't get any higher, but
Okay,
it
so
still does.
that's what it's done to me. I
Yeah.
just keep saying there's just no way somebody can pay that.
Yeah, I think at some point the consumers are going to probably tell us how far we can go. And I don't think it's really slowed up beef demand so far yet. But in the same sense, I think it's probably coming. I mean, I think in the next year or two, I think we're going to probably see some astronomical beef prices.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's probably going to drive a lot of people away from it. And I think that's going to be the ultimate demise of the cattle market, aside from, a major, nuclear bomb or something going off. Since in the last 10, 20 years, it really hasn't been fundamentals that has hurt the market. It's always been some political factor or some out of the, when Russia invaded Ukraine and, those types of deals. That's what sends the
COVID.
market spinning. COVID, and then, the Israel deal Israel-Gaza deal a year or two ago. Those types of deals is what hurts the market. It's not ever the fundamentals. Fundamentals seem to be pretty sound
Okay.
most of the time. So
But now you're leaving this job and going back to flying, huh?
going back to flying is the plan. So I'm going through getting my medical back right now.
Do you have it yet?
I don't have it yet.
And do you have to have first class or second class?
First class, yeah.
class.
So after the deal with when I was flying the 414, I took a break for just a minute for a year or so, kind of come back to the family deal and the family ranch, and did that for a little bit. And then I had enough time built up at this point that I could go to the airlines, and the airlines were hiring like crazy. They still are. So I got hired on in January of 2020, I believe.
Oh, wow. Just in time for COVID.
I went through their initial training. That's where
And
I got
what
my
airlines? Was it American?
Envoy, which
okay.
is owned by American. But they were they got me my AT. That's where I got my ATP. Um, got type rated. I'm type rated in an Embraer 145, and
Is that a fun plane to fly?
it was fun. Yes, I never got to actually fly the actual plane.
Oh, so all
It was
simulator.
all simulator. I was on my way to start IOE. They call it IOE, Initial Operating Experience, which after you get your type rating and after you get through your first certifications in the airlines, they send you out on what's called IOE, Initial Operating Experience, and you'll fly with a check airman, which is they're designated by the FAA, but they work for Envoy.
So are they a DPE?
Essentially, so that they'll just fly with you for a couple weeks, usually a couple weeks, and you'll be actually flying the plane passenger. It's a revenue flights,
And will you be left seat or right seat?
right seat,
Okay.
and the check airman he'll be just kind of watching you, and I'm sure giving you pointers and this and that, and then once he feels comfortable that you're good to go, he signs you off, and then you're free to you're a true blue airline pilot at that point. But so I was on my way to my first IOE flight, and I was I left Tulsa, and my trip was going to start out of LaGuardia in New York, and I think on the plane from Tulsa to Chicago, 'cause I was commuting Tulsa to Chicago, I think there was maybe 6 or 8 people on the plane. And I mean, the world was turning upside down. And I sat in Chicago, and every flight that I was supposed to get on from Chicago to New York just kept getting canceled, which New York was the hot spot anyway.
Right.
And I called crew scheduling half a dozen times, and I'm like, what's going on? What do you want me to do? Because I was nervous. And
Yeah, your first time.
first
really?
time, I really didn't know what was going on. They was like, just hang tight. We're going to get you on a flight to New York. And I was like, it's kind of getting the end of the day. And I called them back, and I remember I was like, look, I'm not from here, and I would really like to go home unless you can for sure get me into New York. And it's like, no, you need to go home. They said, there's a flight leaving at such gate, headed to Joplin. They said, head down there right now and get on it. So I went and got on that flight from Chicago to Joplin, and there might have been 3 people on it. And it was essentially the 2 pilots, a flight attendant, and me, and maybe one other guy, if that. It might have just
Wow.
been me. I mean, it was basically just a private flight at that point. And landed in Joplin, and we got the orders that we were furloughed for, we didn't know how
18
long.
months.
Yeah, it was 18 months.
Yeah.
Because that happened in March of 2020. So a year later, it wouldn't have been quite a year, but no, it was a year. So in the meantime, I go back to ranching, start my ranching deal, and I kind of miss flying. And there's a buddy of mine that started crop dusting, spraying spraying, and he'd hit me up about flying, and I'd hit him up about flying, and just to kind of curb my itch. I'd never done anything like that. I always thought it was cool, and
Of
I thought,
course,
well, heck,
yeah.
this is going to be a perfect time. So he sent me to training a little bit, and
Where do you go to crop dusting training?
well, is mainly a crash course in here, get your tailwheel endorsement, and then come talk about it for a little bit and do that kind of thing. And because there's really no, I mean,
Not a
it's
crop
the
dusting
wild,
school or
it's
nothing.
the Wild West,
Right.
That's the Wild West of flying. There's like maybe 2 or 3 schools in the country, and actually Miller, Missouri, is one of them.
Oh yeah, they're at Kingsley Field.
Yeah, I did not go to that one. I didn't go to those at all. He let me practice in the plane, and I loved it.
Was it powerful?
It was very powerful.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And so I was on my way, and I was roping steers at the time. And honestly, COVID was, and I hate to say it, but I'm sure a lot of people, especially that think our way, that was probably the favorite time of my whole life was COVID, because if traffic was light, there's nobody on the road, you could go wherever you wanted to go if you weren't scared to death. And we roped, anywhere that allowed roping.
Yeah,
A
I was
lot
gonna
of
say, were there
rodeos
very many
got
ropings
canceled.
going?
Any steer rope, mostly steer opens were on. It was the big rodeos that got canceled. Most of the steer opens were on. So I tripped steers and flew spray plane and branched, and it was awesome. But I roped at Guyman, and I was on a permit, but I tripped steers at Guyman, and that was towards the end of April in 21, and came back, and we was gonna spray, and me and that the guy that owned the business took off. He took off in one spray plane, and I took off in the other, and we was headed towards eastern Oklahoma somewhere, Salisaw, I don't know where. But I had to get fuel, so I was just going to peel off at Tahlequah and get fuel, and then meet up with him later on, and then we was going to spray. And I dropped into Tahlequah. It was a beautiful morning and everything, and I touched down. I made the prettiest wheel landing and smooth as glass, and I thought, man, this is awesome, rocking on. And as that tail wheel come down, the plane was kind of pulling off to the right, dragging off to the right, and I thought, well, this is kind of weird, but I still wasn't panicked at this point. And I just kind of started, giving it some
What do you
left
think your
rudder.
speed was?
You probably touched down in that plane as an air tractor. 302 is what it was. So, you probably touched down at 55, 60 miles an
that's
hour.
slow.
Yeah, it gets pretty slow. So we was rolling out, and I was probably 40-ish at this point. I'm just guessing.
Right.
And it starts pulling to the right, and it felt like I had a brake dragging, is what it felt like. And I was pushing the left rudder, nothing, and it kept easing me off to the right side of the runway. And soon as I went off into, it was a very wet year that year. As soon as I went off into the grass, the wheels is heavy in the front end.
Would you have spray on?
No, I was light on gas and
Light on spray.
no empty, and I was empty. Yeah,
Thankfully, huh?
and we sunk his big old radial engine though. It's heavy up front, but wheels sunk in the mud, and I had just enough momentum that it
Wow.
endoed on me. And really wasn't even that dramatic. Because I remember the whole deal.
You're wearing a helmet, right?
No, I did not have it on. I wasn't spraying, so I didn't have it on at this point.
Okay.
Looking back, wish I would have.
Of course.
So the plane went over, and my head hit the dash. I'm sure, but anyway, everything settles down, and I'm hanging upside down in the plane, and 5-point harness steel, and I popped the buckle, and I dropped down on my head, and anyway, get out. Everything came out fairly.
Did you get unconscious?
Unscathed. No, I never lost conscious. I remember the whole deal from start to finish. And I remember the first thing, because I had my ForeFlight up on my phone on the glass, and that's what essentially where everything, all of your maps happen, is on your phone. And I had it on the suction cup mount, and I remember the power was still running, so I shut down the plane, power everything down.
Upside down.
I was conscious. I knew. I turned the fuel off, powered it down, and then I was like, I got to find my phone. I got to call somebody.
But the propeller had hit while it was still spinning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It went down.
But was it still spinning?
No.
Okay.
It was shut.
So you were just turning off
the
the
gyro.
master.
I could hear the gyros spinning,
Okay.
whining and stuff. So I shut it all down, shut the fuel off, and then I start looking for my phone, and can't find my phone. And now I'm starting to get a little panicked because the doors are sunk into the mud. Can't get the doors open. So I sat down, I remember, and I just start kicking at the windshield, and finally get the windshield kicked out.
That's got to take some doing.
Yeah, I shimmy myself out backwards and get out, and I'm looking down the runway. I'm on my hands and knees looking down the runway, and there's a vehicle. Because then now I'm like, is this probably 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning? And Tahlequah, Oklahoma. I'm like, there's nobody
Yeah.
out here.
Yeah.
And I'm looking down the runway because I'm thinking I'm going to have to walk somewhere. And there's a vehicle coming down the runway at me, and it's the airport manager. Thankfully, he was just getting to work and sees me down there. And he comes and checks on me, and he calls the ambulance and send me on. But in the midst of all that, so I get put in the hospital for 2 or 3 days, but luckily nothing was displaced. I was very fortunate. No surgeries.
Nothing broken.
Yeah, I had a lot of stuff broken.
Okay.
Yeah, I shattered my C1 and my C2 in my neck.
Oh man.
But everything was non-displaced, and so no surgeries. My face was all busted up. I broke my skull right here on my forehead. And that was the main thing of the FAA's concern, I believe, is that skull break. So in the midst of all this, they send me home in a neck brace, and they say these fractures need to heal up in your neck, especially, or, there's a good chance because if you move just wrong, that's very dangerous. So I pretty much sat as still as I possibly could.
How long did you have to wear that thing?
About 30 days.
Okay.
And in the midst of this 30 days, wouldn't you know, the airline calls and says, "Hey, we've got class date open. We're calling some pilots back."
Oh man.
So, and I tell them, I tell them I'm in a neck brace, and they say, "Well, that's fine. You can be in a neck brace through ground, because you'll have to go through recurrent training." They said, as long as you're out of the neck brace by the time flying rolls around.
What happened to the plane? I mean, why did it pull to the right?
We don't know, and it never got investigated, to my knowledge.
Why not?
I think because it was a spray operation. Because I think it's technically considered an experimental or something of that nature.
Did insurance cover it though?
I have no idea.
Oh yeah, is the guy still talking to you?
Yeah, he does. Fortunately, I was concerned about that a little bit. He trips steers as well now.
Okay.
And he's a really good guy. And he understood. And,
sure.
And I think he was just glad that I was alive, as well as myself. I was glad I was alive too. So
well, I bet Sierra was too. Or what do you think?
Yeah. So that's kind of funny. So this airport manager, he comes and he asked me, he says, are you hurt or anything? And I said, well, yeah, I think so. And he says, do you need me to call an ambulance? And I say, does it look like I need an ambulance? And he says, well, I don't know. And I said, well, here, try to help me up. And because I'm on my hands and knees. And so he tries to help me up, and the adrenaline's kind of starting to wear off at this point. And I say, it hits me, and I say, nah. I said, lay me back down. I said, call an ambulance. So he's on the phone with an ambulance, and then another guy pulls in, and I don't know who this other guy is. But I'm sure, the morning airport coffee drinkers, maybe.
Right.
I don't know. He might have worked there. I don't know. He was an older gentleman. And he walks over to me, and I'm laying on the ground. And he's kind of staring down at me, and probably wondering if I'm alive or dead. And he says something dumb, probably like, are you all right? And I looked at him and I said, do you have a phone? And he said, yeah, I got a phone. And he pulls out he had an iPhone. And I said, call this number for me. And I give him Sierra's phone number. And she was in Missouri visiting some of her family. And so he calls and holds it down there by me, and she doesn't answer.
Of course, that's a strange number.
I'm like, she ain't never going to answer. So, especially it was early in the morning, and I thought she's never going to answer. So I said, call this number, and I give him my dad's number. I said, he'll answer. So he calls Dad, and Dad answers the phone. He says, hello. And I'm laying there, and I said, Dad. He says, hello. I said, Dad. Hello. And then I kind of happened just to look up at the phone because he's holding it down there. I mean, and he's got it muted. I'm like, I said, you've got it muted. And then at that point, Dad hangs up, and I tell the guy, at this point, the ambulance comes, and I look at the guy and I said, keep calling that number back. I said, he'll answer you again. Or I said, just keep calling that number. I said, that's my dad. I said, just tell him what's going on. And then the ambulance came and takes me away. But they take me to the little city hospital there at Tahlequah, and they think everything's fine, and routine, which it was.
Did they do an X-ray or CT?
CT scan, they did the whole works there at Tahlequah, and that's where they found that skull break. And
but not the.
They found all that too.
Oh, okay,
I mean, they knew everything at Tahlequah. What they were concerned about at Tahlequah was that forehead break. It was clean through, and they were concerned about brain.
And were you bleeding profusely?
Out of my nose and face, yes. My face was busted up all to heck, and my hands. Sierra's even got pictures, even in the hospital, because they're more concerned about saving your life than they are cleaning you up, and which is for a good thing. And I mean, I had like where they shoved IVs and stuff in my hand and on my arm, and it was just all muddy as all get out. And you're like, wonder why the heck they wouldn't clean that up, but they don't. I mean, I guess they just
don't wipe it or nothing.
I mean, they might have wiped it a little bit, but I mean, it was disgusting, and it was like a day or two before Sierra finally, she's like, can I get like a washcloth or something so I can at least maybe
seriously
wipe him down? Yeah, because it was bad, but.
And so, how long were you able to go back to the airline and do the?
I did. I went back. I told them, I told them I was in a neck brace. They said as long as you're out of the neck brace,
and
by
did
the time
you tell
you
them
get
you were
to
also in a plane crash?
I did not. The union knew about it.
Okay.
I called the union and told them, and they were very great they're very great to work with, and I'm actually working with them now to get back to the airline. So
your medical.
Yes. Yep. And
has that been hard?
It hasn't been hard. It's just been a process. The FAA doesn't make anything easy. It doesn't.
Yeah, I think they have a new motto. We're not happy till you're not happy.
Yeah, I think that's been always their motto.
I guess maybe it's not a new one, huh?
Yeah, that's been forever. But so, they sent me all kinds of paperwork. You're denied. But they didn't send it to me until I was already back at the airline, because I went back to Envoy. And I went through the whole recurrent training a second time, as I had to go. It was basically like starting all over again. Only you knew what was happening, because it only been a year. Yeah, kind of. It was boring, but it was good. I mean, because you got all of that experience one more time,
Sure.
And I even went, through the end of recurrent, airline pilots, they have to take a check ride. It's essentially a check ride. Your license, your certification might not be on the line necessarily, but your job might. And it's the same procedures every year.
It's like a 2-week check ride, sounds like, though, right?
Yeah, every year that you do that. So, and I go through all that again, pass, and they're sending me out to IOE. And I'm in between, and my medical was due in August. So I go back to my AME before I start IOE to get a medical, and they.
So just real quick, AME is your medical examiner.
Medical examiner. Yep. I go back to him, and they denied due to all the fractures and breaks and everything else.
And had it been a doctor you'd seen before, or did you just get a random one?
Nope, same AME that I've used ever since.
So he knew you.
Yeah, he knew me, and he was fine. My neurologist, my neurosurgeon. Even he wrote me a letter saying everything's good to go, no issues whatsoever. We was prepared to fight the FAA on it, and they still come back and denied, and it was due to enhanced risk of seizures is what they was concerned.
Like, you don't have any anger, or you don't have any.
No, never
residual.
Any seizures or no nothing. And my AME, we appealed it once or twice, and it denied. They wanted me to sit for 5 years, seizure free, which I never had a seizure to begin with. And my neurosurgeon, the neurologist, every team of medical professionals say I will never have one. but the FAA says you had this one
Wreck.
break and you may have a seizure, which may be for good reason. I mean, protecting the public, I guess. But
Well, people can have seizures without having a wreck. Too.
yeah, I know. But so I'm approaching the 5-year mark. I mean, April will be technically 5 years. I'm working with the union group. AMAS is what they're called, Aviation Medicine Advisory Services. They've been great to work with, and that's all they deal with is medical issues with pilots, and everything that I have submitted to them, they've said there's no reason why I shouldn't be issued a first class medical, and they've submitted all of that paperwork on my behalf to the FAA, and we're kind of just in that waiting game now. So,
but you've been checked out.
Yes,
they've already done the physical part of it.
All of it, yeah. I've seen all the way down to my eye dog. I had to have a full FAA eye evaluation. I had to go see a neurologist and get a full comprehensive neurological exam. I had to be psych tested.
And had you had a psych test before?
No, that was my first time.
So they added that.
That was a real doozy, yeah. And
will you have to go through
too.
this every 6 months, you think?
No.
So once you get back in?
Once I get back in, it should be just a once a year deal. Until I guess I don't even remember what age it is before you have to start going twice.
40.
40. So
yep.
I've got 8 more years. So
okay.
Before I have to go twice a year, but.
So your first class lasts longer when you're below 40, right?
Yep. Yeah. It like 1 full year.
Okay.
Yep. So.
And when's the last time you've flown a plane now?
It would have been that wreck. Yep.
No kidding.
Yep. I mean, I've flown the simulator, the Embraer 145 sim, which, I mean, it's essentially.
Is it pretty amazing?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like sitting in the actual cockpit,
Can you get checked out in it, like a check ride?
Yeah, they're 100%. Yeah.
No kidding.
I have a full type rating.
From the simulator.
From the simulator, yeah. Yeah, they're full motion, It's just like when you step inside.
Do you wreck one just to see what it's like?
You can, yeah. No, I never did.
You never did?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, 100%. They call it red screen. I mean, you're not going to feel the full impact.
Sure, of course not. Yeah.
But when you hit that stipulation of a crash, it'll just go. They call it red screen, and the whole screen will go red on you. And then you're done. Your flight's over. But
that's crazy. Huh?
Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to get you on here is because a lot of the people that watch this are looking at people that have achieved stuff. So here you are, you're steer tripping, and you're a commercial pilot, and you've had some really cool experiences there. What would you advise a young guy that wanted to be a pilot? Is there some pitfalls you could save them from?
Probably the best thing to do would be to find a good flight instructor or flight program. Someone that fits.
Was Oklahoma State great?
It was great. Yeah, I would recommend that all day long. And I'm sure there's several other several universities. And
what did it cost, if you don't mind my asking, to get a degree at Oklahoma State? Do you have any idea?
I don't know. I mean, it was probably.
You hear a story about a young guy goes to college, becomes an ATP, and he's $150,000 in debt. Is that true?
That would be true. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't put that past a bit. I was very fortunate. I had a handful of scholarships, and my parents and some of my family were saved up, and I came out of college debt free. I'm one of the very few. So
well, and having your PPL saved you a lot of hours early too.
Did save a lot. Yeah, that PPL. That's 40 hours minimum that you got to fly. I mean that racks up pretty quick.
Well, how about a guy getting a PPL? Would you advise him to go get a plane, or would you advise him to rent?
I'd tell people, I get asked that question a lot, and I'm sure you probably do too, with people coming up and say, man, I want to fly, or that's something I've always wanted to do, or ask this same very question, how would you go to flight school, or would you recommend buying a plane? And I tell everybody the same thing, and it's, in my opinion, if you feel like you are dedicated enough and you feel like you are willing to put in the time and the work and the effort to go get that pilot's license. And what I mean by that is not you might work really hard on it for this week, or you might work really hard on it for a day or two and then get burnt out. Burnout is probably the number one reason why people don't get their private pilot's license, because they get started in it and see how much work it is.
It's hard.
How much time, and then they drop it. And then they may drop it for a month or 2 or 3, 4 months. Some period of time goes on, and then they're like, well, I'm going to pick that back up. And then they expect to pick back up where they left off. You can't do that.
Not with flying.
It's almost like starting all over again. So if that is going to be your approach to it, I would say going and getting with a flight school, even a Part 91 flight school. I think there may be 1 or 2 in Joplin even. Mizzou Aviation, I think, was one.
Well, there's also like private instructors.
Then there's private flight instructors that may have their own plane that will let you rent their plane as well as their flight instruction. Maybe going that route for just the first little bit, just to see if you're gonna stay hooked. If you're one of those driven individuals that's going to, that you just know you're going to hammer it out until it's done, I would 100% recommend buying your own plane. I mean, I don't think there's nothing better than learning to fly in your own plane.
Yes. And then because when you first get your PPL, you really don't know much.
Exactly.
And at least if you've trained in the plane you're still flying, you have a little bit of a cushion, I guess.
100%. You get your private pilot's license, and that's what I did. I mean, I was fortunate enough that we owned the plane that I learned in, and I took my private pilot's license test in Beaumont, Dagtown, somewhere up in Kansas.
I took mine in Emporia. Would that be right for you?
Somewhere close to Emporia. What's around Emporia?
Mike Tevis was my DPE.
Yeah, this was Ken Godfrey, I believe, was my DPE.
Yeah.
Which,
well, I've only been flying for 6 years.
Yeah.
7 years. Cody took 4 hours of lessons.
Yeah.
Said, this is amazing. He hadn't passed his medical or nothing. He went and bought a plane.
Yep.
And they said, hey, Dad, I got a plane. You might as well learn too. And
perfect.
Like, this is what I need, something else.
Heck yeah.
But he was right.
Yeah. I mean, and those driven individuals like yourself, you and Cody both, I mean, that is 100% the route I'd go. Because I went and took my pilot's license, and I got my license. I had the plane that I'd been instructed in, and it was nothing, But I could see where it would be a disadvantage is that you were renting and you're plane swapping around maybe a lot and just getting some instruction when you can get it in, and then you get your pilot's license, and then now you want to go buy a plane. Well, you're still pretty wet behind the ears,
yes.
And then you go buy a plane that you are completely unfamiliar, whether it's the same type or not.
Even if
it's the same type, and every plane's different, and you're going to learn the quirks. Every different plane's going to have its own little quirks.
78 Ford.
Yeah, exactly.
All the 3/4 tons don't drive the same.
Yeah, so even then, I would probably recommend, even if you did go that route, you get your pilot's license and then you go buy a plane, you may want to take a little bit of instruction even in that new plane.
I think the insurance will require it.
And it probably would, yeah, especially if you're moving up, just because it says your license says you can fly it doesn't always necessarily mean you should. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with the steer tripping, if a person wants to get into that, I mean, getting into team roping is pretty simple.
Right.
It's everywhere.
Right.
So where does a guy go? And I've never done any tripping. And where do you go to learn that?
There's people that are doing it.
So you just need to find a tripper.
You need to find a tripper. And I know of some people that are self-taught, and that's great. I mean, and you can go the self-taught route as well. Tripping is a little bit different game because it can be dangerous, and it's a little bit more of a dangerous event.
And a little expensive with the cost of cattle right now.
Very expensive. Yeah. I mean, you could, it might, yeah, it's.
If you're self-taught, you're bound to maybe.
You're going to hurt something, yourself, your horse, something. I mean, cattle is it's an unfortunate given. I mean, with the tripping, just like the calf roping, I mean, you're going to cripple some cattle here or there. I mean, that's just the nature of the event. You're going to have that, but the difference in the tripping is like the tripping and the calf roping or the tripping and the team roping. Tripping is just that little bit of extra. I mean, you're tied on to 400 to 500 pound animal, and you rope a steer and you got all this slack flopping around out there, and that's the dangerous part. You get a horse that steps wrong or a steer comes into you, and you get that slack over the rope. I mean, it's killed people,
Sure.
and it's nothing really to joke around about. So
Yeah. We were out at Don King Days out in Sheridan,
yep,
Wyoming, and that's like a polo field,
yep,
and there's no fences,
yep.
and the steer tripping out there is Western. Have you
Yes,
been there?
I've never been. I really want to get up there, but
Oh
I've never
my
been.
gosh, it was all the events, the steer wrestling,
Yeah,
calf rope, even the bull riding and
anything you
it's
do on the grass can be a little dangerous. I
on the
mean, just
grass
like Pendleton, or
with
yeah,
no fences.
it's 100%. Yep, yeah, it can get away pretty quick.
Yeah, but good watching.
Yes, for sure. Yep, for sure.
So you've been in a family business for a while, but now you're not going to be. And so do you have a so we have a family business.
Yep,
And my daughter lives down there, which that's a quarter mile away, and my
yep.
son, he's 2 miles away, and we all kind of work together and
Hmm.
live together. Um, and touch wood, we've been able to make it work.
Right,
So, but yours is not working now.
right.
What do you think could have? What do you think has to happen to keep a family business going?
I wouldn't necessarily say ours is not working per se.
Because they seem to set up to be to fail.
Yes,
What I see from the outside when I look at other people's that have failed is that the family relationship carries into the business,
yes,
and the patriarch or the matriarch, whatever the case may be, um, doesn't allow there to be a separation.
100%.
And so I'm kind of the patriarch of this deal, and I will never let a student, I will never let a horse's foot, I'll never let a decision on how to fit a shoe. None
Hmm.
of that is ever going to affect my Christmas dinner.
Yes,
And but I think the ones that fail, they do let little things build on the personal side. Do you find that to be true?
I do 100%. A healthy boundary is something that I would highly recommend, and I mean healthy boundary in the sense that it is healthy,
And
because
would that be like a clear boundary, or what do you mean by
it needs to
healthy?
be very clear and concise. I don't, you know, we we bring everything we do is, and it's kind of sad, but everything that I have grown up has been family driven, family driven, family driven, family driven. And even, you're part of the family, or you're not, and even when I got married and my brother got married, um, I know, and I'm not faulting this at all, but my wife, she was not brought up that way at all. And, my wife was brought up in a sense where, this is your stuff, this is my stuff, but the way I was
Within
brought,
the family,
the way I was brought up was, you're in the family, everything's
right?
everybody's.
That's not my dump truck. That's the family dump truck,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, 100%. And my wife, she was a little hesitant about that from the get go. And looking back, I probably should have heeded that warning a little bit in a sense. And, because I was just like, well, whatever, if my brother needs something, he can come and get it, or, that's just how it always worked. And looking back now, it might not have should have been the right approach. It was great young, but I feel like there's a point in time where a person, and it's biblical. I mean, there's a point in time where, you know,
Well,
man has to leave
it's
his.
absolutely biblical. You joined your wife, you
You
become
join
one,
your
and
wife, you become one, and you kind of create your own family unit. And that's never been this. That's never been our case at all. Everything's been all in, all together, all the time. And there was just a little bit, some breakdowns in there. It gets tense all the time. It gets tense. Looking back, and I don't fault my parents at all for it. And I put a lot of the blame on myself for not heeding my wife's warnings early on, and maybe for not taking the Bible at its face value, because I think that's very important. I think when when you get married, you should have your own family unit. The ranching business is, there's all kinds of family businesses in ranching that go back hundreds and hundreds of years. There's probably 10 times that has failed. But I've always looked at those ones that, them 100-year ranches and it's been in the families for years, and I've envied those so much, and I've just wanted that so bad that it's been a kind of a bit of a breakdown between my own personal family unit and mom
So
and dad.
you wanted it bad enough that you were willing to take a lot
Yes,
that you maybe shouldn't have.
probably yes,
Okay.
100%.
Yeah, I understand that.
And I'd say, looking back, the way that it should probably be structured, and looking forward into my new venture, it shouldn't be, you get married off, you should have your own deal. We should have had our own cattle, in a sense, we should have had our own cattle, our own land, brother should have had his own cattle, his own land. Mom and dad should have had their own deal going on. Could there have been partnerships? Absolutely. I think we could have came together, ran cattle together, 100%, but I feel like there probably should have been some separation in that sense.
So do you hope to someday run a family business with your son and daughter?
If the opportunity arises, I would not be against it, one bit, knowing now what I do know.
So you mentioned the Bible. So can we delve into religion?
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
you are a Christian.
Yes, sir.
All right. What's your stance on creation?
I think it's a gift from God.
So, and do you believe the Earth is 6,000 years old or 6 million billion years old?
I don't think we know how old the Earth is.
That is very true. Nobody knows for sure. But what's your take on it?
As far as the Big Bang Theory,
Right. So, is the Big Bang Theory a true deal? Is evolution a true deal, or is the first 10 words of the Bible true?
I'd say the first 10 words of the Bible is true.
Okay. Well, that's what I've always maintained. Well, not always. I was raised by my parents were very smart, college educated, and Christian.
Yep.
But they were the first 10 words of the Bible are, in the beginning God created heaven and earth.
Yep.
And then they had the opinion that there was morning, there was night. It was the first day there was morning, then there was a billion years, and then there was night, and then there was a million years. And so the more I've studied that, the more I have so much problems with creation. I mean, with evolution.
Yeah.
Whenever creation is so easily spelled out in the Bible.
Yep.
Because there's not. It doesn't seem figurative. There was morning, there was night. There was a first day. There was morning, which we have, and then there was night, which we have, and there was a day, and that's a 24-hour period that you can measure.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm always interested when I meet a youngster that's a Christian, because a lot of them still, like my parents, believe in evolution and Christianity.
Right. Yeah.
So were you taught creation as a child, or did you come to that yourself?
We grew up in church. Mom and dad, packed us to church, and
What church?
Carter Baptist in Veneta.
So just a
little old country church.
But just a Bible believing.
Yep.
Protestant church.
Absolutely. Yep. And I think and not to dive into it too deep, but I think a lot of people get, in that creation, the Big Bang, even Christians that try to put, you try to, and I do too at times, probably some, but you try to nitpick that a little bit and say, well, a day is 24 hours. Well, it may very well not have been at that point, and a lot of the minor details they're trying to put into what we know now, and they're almost trying to work in God's mind. Well, you're not going to work in God's mind. I mean,
we'll never understand that.
You can read the Bible, and that's 100% true, and take it, all for what it's worth, and it's worth a lot. But when you start trying to think like the man, you're never gonna understand that.
Right.
So
Yeah, it is. It is.
and that's a
beyond our
hard thing
understanding.
that's a hard thing to grasp, is you may never know until you meet him.
Yep.
And
Yeah, and hopefully he's taking you with him and not sending you south.
absolutely, yeah, yeah, you want to be on his good side,
Yeah.
and for sure.
All right. Do you have any inspirational sayings that you can spout out there to educate and inspire our audience?
Shoot, I don't really. That's a loaded. That's a. I've probably heard a bunch of them, but I
But
don't.
none come to mind.
None come to mind.
How
right
about
off
dad
the
jokes? You look like a guy who could tell a good dad
bat.
joke.
I probably got some, but I didn't bring any dad jokes with me
See,
either.
you should have prepared.
I should have prepared. I didn't prepare.
Well, I know that you were doing this as a favor to my son-in-law, and so I really, really appreciate your time. And man, I think it's going to be a great episode. So,
It's been great getting to know you guys, and I wouldn't have known anything really about it. You know, my wife Sierra and Jacqueline, you know, we was looking for horseshoers, and Sierra's like, "Why don't we call Jacqueline?" I said, "Absolutely," you know, and it's been great ever since knowing you guys. You know, you're all great people. So,
well, thank you.
yeah.
Well, young man, best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. That's
Thank you.
been great.
Yep.